If your idea of a stressful week is replying to 12 emails before lunch, spare a thought for Wessex in the year 871. Southern England was under sustained pressure from the Great Heathen Army, a coalition of Viking forces that had already battered major Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and was now testing whether Wessex could be broken like the rest. This was not a border scuffle, this was a survival exam with axes. By this point, the Danes had already made huge gains across England. Northumbria had been shattered, Mercia had been bullied into submission, and East Anglia had taken a brutal hit. Wessex was the last major independent Anglo-Saxon power standing in the south, and everyone knew it. In strategic terms, the map was simple. If Wessex fell, the political future of England looked very different. In early 871, the Viking army moved into Reading, a strong position between the Thames and Kennet. The West Saxons struck first at Englefield and won a morale-boosting victory. Great news, except morale doesn't stop spear points. A few days later at Reading itself, the West Saxons attacked again and were beaten. Their ealdorman Æthelwulf was killed, a serious loss of leadership and experience. So when both sides moved toward Ashdown, nobody arrived fresh, cheerful, or under any illusion that this would be easy. Ashdown, fought around early January 871, likely on the Berkshire Downs, is famous but geographically slippery. Historians still debate the exact site. Medieval sources describe the Hill of Ash, but they do not hand us a neat modern pin drop. What we can say with confidence is that this was upland ground in winter conditions, and the terrain mattered. Whoever managed formation and momentum on that ridge would decide whether Wessex kept breathing. Both armies deployed in two main divisions, which sounds tidy on paper and terrifying in real life. The Viking side had two kings, often identified as Bagsec and Halfdan, and several earls commanding separate bodies. The West Saxons mirrored that structure. King Æthelred faced the Viking kings, while his younger brother Alfred faced the earls. Two lines, two commands, one large problem. Then comes the famous leadership moment. According to later West Saxon tradition, Æthelred stayed at prayer and would not leave before Mass was completed. Whether every detail is exactly as remembered, the battlefield dilemma is believable. Alfred could wait for the king and risk being hit first, or he could move now and commit before the full command structure was in motion. He chose to attack. That choice was risky for a prince who was not yet king and had no guarantee the line would hold. Add the terrain problem. Sources suggest the Vikings held higher ground. Charging uphill into a formed enemy is rarely considered an ideal wellness activity. Still, Alfred drove forward. Medieval accounts describe his assault with almost mythic force, but beneath the legend is a straightforward military reality. Speed and aggression were used to prevent the Vikings from dictating the engagement. Imagine the sensory overload. Frozen air, mud under boots, shield rims knocking together like drum beats, orders swallowed by wind, men trying to stay shoulder to shoulder because once a shield wall opens, fear pours through the gap faster than steel. This is why discipline mattered more than individual heroics. One brave fighter is a story. A line that doesn't break is a victory. Somewhere in this chaos, chroniclers later mention a lone thorn tree as a reference point around which fighting surged. It is an oddly specific image, but that is often how battle memory works. Huge events remembered through one fixed object. Kingdoms can pivot around details as small as a tree and decisions as quick as a single order. When the lines finally crashed, Ashdown became a long contest of endurance. Spears struck first, then swords and axes at close range as formations compressed. Men fell, others stepped into their place, and commanders tried to keep shape while noise and panic tore at control. This was not elegant warfare. It was collision, recovery, and collision again. At some point, the balance shifted. The Viking line began to give way. West Saxon pressure increased, and what had been a hard-fought stand turned into retreat. Contemporary tradition records the death of King Bagsec and several Viking earls, including Sidroc the Elder, Sidroc the Younger, Osbern, Frana, and Harold. Those names matter because they indicate the scale of the shock. This was not just rank-and-file loss, it was a serious blow to leadership. The pursuit reportedly continued until dark. That detail tells you the West Saxons understood the moment. Winning the contact is one thing, converting it into a damaging rout is another. Ashdown was not a polite and both sides withdrew medieval draw. It was a real tactical success for Wessex. But if you're waiting for the triumphant ending where all problems are solved, history declines, fast. Within weeks, the campaign swung again. The West Saxons suffered later defeats, including at Basing and then at Merton or Meriton, where Bishop Hammond was killed. Ashdown was a major victory, yes, but not a magic spell. The year 871 remained brutal, fluid, and unforgiving. Soon after Easter, King Æthelred died, and Alfred became king. No celebratory confetti cannon, no calm handover, no peaceful onboarding period. He inherited a kingdom under immediate pressure and had to negotiate, fight, and improvise in rapid sequence. Peace agreements that followed were not signs of friendship, they were signs that both sides were calculating losses and buying time for the next move. So why does Ashdown matter so much if it didn't end the war? Because it proved something vital at exactly the right time. Viking armies could be beaten in open battle by West Saxon forces, even after recent defeats, even under harsh conditions, and even when command decisions had to be made under extreme pressure. In strategic terms, Ashdown did not finish the story, it kept the story alive. For Alfred personally, this battle became part of his early credibility. Long before legal reforms, naval planning, fortified burhs, and all the achievements that would earn him the label the Great, he was the younger brother making a high-risk battlefield call while events were slipping toward disaster. That matters. Great reputations are usually built from very unglamorous moments where someone chooses action over paralysis. For Wessex, Ashdown bought breathing space. Nothing more, but nothing less. And breathing space in 871 was priceless. Time to reorganize, time to replace losses, time to adapt strategy. Later West Saxon resilience was not born from one heroic speech, it was built from repeated survival in campaigns exactly like this one. The battle also shows how medieval history mixes fact, memory, and identity. The chronicles were written from West Saxon perspectives, so historians read them critically. But even with that caution, the core arc is clear. Defeat at Reading, recovery at Ashdown, further punishment, leadership transition, continued resistance. Not a fairy tale, more like a long, expensive tutorial in state survival. If you want the final image, picture a cold ridge under winter sky, shield walls grinding forward, and one army refusing to fold. Around a disputed hill and a very famous thorn tree, Wessex purchased the one resource it needed most: time. And in the 9th century, time was the difference between being conquered and becoming the kingdom that eventually helped shake England. In short, Ashdown is remembered because it sits at the hinge point, messy, violent, and decisive enough to matter. History rarely offers clean victories. Ashdown offered something better: a chance.